Hey guys, it's Dereka with Dereka's Designs, and today we are making this super cute flamingo attachment for your wreaths. This is a no-sew attachment, so grab your glue guns and let's get started. Hey guys, we are back. We have our adorable little flamingo here. She's a big girl though. She is almost 20 inches tall, so she will fit really nice into a good 24, 26 inch wreath. So I have a pile of supplies because, she's got lots of pieces and parts. We have 2 leg covers. This is her head and her body and her wing and her beak. And I have all of the corresponding pieces of foam board that go with it. There we go. Now this one, I opted to use regular polyfill on her because I wanted her to be stuffed. I didn't want to use the quilt batting. I liked the, the chubbiness of her. She's really, really stuffed well. So we're going to use, this, hope I have some. Oh yeah, I do. We're just going to use regular polyfill and a dowel, and we're going to stuff her as best we can here. I just have a regular dowel rod there. Okay, so I like to make all my little pieces when I'm doing a no-sew attachment. I like to make all the little pieces that I can first and then do the final assembly. So right now, because I know I want her facing this way to the left, I'm going to make sure I make the beak this direction and the feet this direction and the head this direction. There's lots of little pieces, but you just have to think about it before you start gluing everything together. So I did not add any kind of polyfill or quilt batting to the beak. It's just flat, but we're going to cover it with white. I just realized this is glittered white, but it's okay. We'll make it work. She likes a little bling. There we go. Okay, we just literally wrapped the whole beak in the white fabric. The white glittered fabric, actually. Let me find my little scissors. There they are. I like to snip off all these little extras, especially since we're going to glue this down onto the head right here. I definitely want to get any kind of big bulkiness out of there. Not to get all of it, but just anything that's really sticking up, like all these little triangle pieces. I always try to snip those off. Okay, so then, one thing I learned when I made her the other day, as you can see, the base piece on her is pink. So I did the pink all the way down the beak. And it doesn't look bad because it's behind there. Nobody's going to see it. But what I thought I could do, I tried to make this, I was going to try to do the black around the entire section so that when you looked at it, now it's just black instead of pink back there. So we're going to try that. We can't do it yet, but we'll try it. It's going to go over this, and then I'm going to have it go over the second layer there. Give it a shot. You know me, I'm always trying to do different things to make things either look better or maybe even just be a little bit easier sometimes. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and do our body. Now, I did the body and the head in 2 different pieces because I guarantee you, if we made this all one piece, if we did her in one big piece, this section right here is going to break every stinking time. Whether it's when you ship it, put it in the wreath, you're going to have floppy wobbly broken neck right here. So by doing separate pieces, see how this piece goes back there? It's so much stronger. It is not going to break. Now these legs are a little spindly, but the neck is not going to automatically break. I just felt like it was, I always like to do layers for integrity on these pieces. Okay, so we're just going to go along and glue all this lovely pink felt. You can use fleece, you can use whatever fabric you want. I mean, really, whatever you can find. The fleece has a little more stretch to it, so you can actually stuff it a little bit fatter. But I opted to just use this cute little candy pink felt that I had. That's what I used on my other Flamingo, and I've always loved it. So, but I know you can definitely find fleece. So I am just going to glue these corners. Just adding a little bit at a time and just kind of working it around. There we go. Pull up this one. And I'm going to leave myself space here to stuff it. So I don't want to close it all the way. I want to take off. Sometimes you can't see what's sticking and what's not unless you cut off the corner. And then you can look and see if there's any little sections that are sticking up or just not looking, you know, if it's rounding the corner when you want it to be a straight corner. And that way you cut off the bulk and then go back and reshape it with your fingers. Make sure it's how you want it. Okay, but one thing I just realized I did, guys, and this is I'm glad I made this mistake because it happens to all of us, it's backwards. This is my tail. So see, it's so easy to make a mistake, but it's so easy to fix them too, because look what I'm doing. Thankfully, this is kind of the same size. Both going both directions. We will make it work, or I'll try anyway. So, lesson learned, right? This is how I want it to be. This is my top. This is the front of the neck. This little nub here is the tail. So I need this to be on here like this, okay? And I think we're just gonna have just enough. I might have to tug that one down a little bit just to make it. With felt is great because you do get a little bit of stretch. Not a lot, but you get a little bit. So let's see what we can do here. Take a little stretch here. Guys, if you make mistakes, don't get down on yourself. I still do it every time. I mean, I can make 10 of these and then, you know, on the 10th one, I'll do something backwards and it's like, oh, goodness gracious, what was I thinking? You know, it just happens. It's no big deal. Now I'm going to go ahead and get this in here. The most important part is this little tail right here because this is where the least amount of fabric is hiding. So I want to make sure I get that perfect before I start working my way around. I'm just going to hold it. Give it a little second to hold there. Sometimes my mouth just gets away from me and I just start talking and next thing you know, I'm trying to figure out. So now I gave this a little tug on the right side here. This is glued down. It's not going anywhere, so I know that's secure. But I didn't have much over here, so I just had to give it a little bit of a tug to get it where I wanted it, to make sure it's going to cover all the way around. So if you wanted to start over and you had the extra supplies, then by all means, just you can use this as scrap, throw it away, do whatever. But I don't like to scrap a project unless it is just really bad. Like if I flip this over and it just looks terrible, and I would throw it away. But really, it's not going to look bad at all. I don't think anyone would notice it except me by the time I finish it. We just got lucky that this particular piece was almost the same left to right or right to left. I mean, you can still see the curve of the back. Little tail looks good. Everything looks fine. So I'm just going to have to tug a little bit on this front part to make this. See how this is really short? So I'll just use my fingernails, grab a hold of it. and then just hold it there. I'm going to trim this off now. There we go. So I'm going to let this sit for a minute because we're going to stuff it pretty tight, and I want to make sure it's completely cool before we do that. So now we can move on to the little head. Now, again, don't make the same mistake, right? This is the way I want it to face, just like her. This is where my fabric needs to be, on this side of her. So I'm going to flip it over like that. So I'm going to be working with it going this way. Okay, and since we do want to stuff this, we're going to have to leave, and this is curved, we're going to have to glue a little bit, stuff a little bit, glue a little bit, stuff a little bit. It's the only way to really get into all the little crevices. So the first thing I'm going to do is glue the fabric through the back of the neck here and up this back of the back. And then we're going to put, we don't need to stuff this part. Actually, let me draw that. I'm going to show you guys. Hold on. It's over here. Let me just grab it really quickly. Okay, so if you're looking at your pattern, anytime there is a piece that we have made for stability, like literally this back section here, it does nothing. Nobody's going to see it. It's literally to glue to the back for stability. You do not want to put any polyfill underneath that because it's going to make your item go crooked, right? So what I do, I can find my pencil again, is I have this line here where the body is going to meet right there. So what I do is I put this on there like that. I'm going to draw that line wherever it is, whatever project you're working on. And I am just going to glue this directly to the little girl. I'm also going to glue this section of pink under, because I don't want the beak to sit lopsided. So as you can see here, there's like this little valley right there because I glued the pink directly to that so that I don't put polyfill under it and I don't, and it doesn't make it all lopsided. So again, drawing that line there. So this section here, oops, I'll have to do it on the other side because obviously I'm going the wrong direction. That section there, and we'll just wing this here because and that section there are going to be glued directly down. So the only places we're going to put polyfill is the top of the head and then down the neck. Okay, so I haven't totally screwed it up. So we want it, this is our front side. We want this on here like this. Okay, so we're good. Good like that. So I'm going to flip this over now. Get it centered. I'm going to snip this all the way down. Down at the bottom, I do like a little Y cut, a little Y incision down here. It sounds weird, but it helps to get this little bottom part right there. And that's the first part I want to hold on because the rest of it will follow once you get that first one down. A couple more little snips just to what's going on? What? Why are you guys acting like this? Stop. Stop. Hold on, calm down. No, you need to stay up there. It's like a herd of cattle. And just keep working. I don't do too many little slits, just around this really harsh curve right here. It's just kind of hard to get the felt up in all the little crevices. Not impossible, but I don't want to be able to see any of the white foam board through that. Okay. Really shouldn't have moved it. There we go. So now I like to put the glue directly on the pink felt. It's easier. This is not a lot to work with here. This little area behind the neck is not very big. So I find if you put the glue directly on the felt, then you have a better chance of it catching on to something. Like that. The same thing with this side. I'm going to put it directly on the felt here. I'm only going to go up to the top, the back of the head right there. Ouch. I got some glue on that one. Okay. So even though this is just yucky looking back here, I got glue leaking out, I got glue strings stinking everywhere, my fingernails sticking to everything. If you flip it over, you wouldn't even know. Like, it's perfect. One little notch right there. I'm sure that's just going to require the tiniest little bit of glue. And just hold it down with my finger. There. So back here, you can't even tell that there's all that mess on this side because it's a mess. But I can't do anything with all this glue on my fingernails. It literally makes it like I'm a piece of, like I'm a lint roller. I grab and hold everything. Okay. So now, because we know this where this X is, we want to glue this directly down. I'm just going to go ahead and throw some glue on that side. And again, we're going to throw some glue right on the fabric there. Okay, so now I'm just going to play with it a little bit. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do the bottom. I'm going to go up, I don't know, part way up the neck, and I'm going to stuff that. And then we'll go up the rest of the way up the neck, and then I'll come up through here and stuff that part. And we're just going to have to slowly eke our way up. So we're just going to get all of that on there. But I'm going to let this sit for a minute before we move on, because I don't want it to pull out while it's still warm. So we can go ahead and start stuffing this one while we're waiting for the other one. And I left this opening way big enough that my hand should fit in here, except maybe in the very far little, like this little tail area back here. Right there. Make sure you never put giant wads, and if you have a big wad, just kind of separate it so that you can just lightly put it in there evenly. You never want to, don't ever put it in when it's all balled up, because then that's how you get like lumps and bumps in your project. That's not attractive. So I'm just using my hand. I'll take my dowel and just kind of move the polyfill around. I use my hand, like right here, there's a valley, there's a little crevice. So I know I need to get more polyfill right there. Just use your hand to feel over it, kind of, if there's ever an area that feels like it doesn't have any polyfill, make sure you push some over there. There we go. And when you get to the opening like this and you see, there's a good area with no polyfill. So I just take one last piece like this Just kind of shove it in there. Just like that. If you get it so full that you cannot pull this pink down here and glue it, then you have to take out some of the polyfill. And it's way too stuffed. That's the only remedy to make it go back to where you can grab a hold of it. Okay, whoops. So like right here, I have very little polyfill. So we're going to grab it, hold it. I'm putting the glue directly on the fabric because, like I said, when you pull it over, it'll grab something. But if you put the glue on the foam board, it might miss the fabric altogether. So definitely, when you're working with smaller sections like this, which of course it wouldn't be this small if I hadn't made that mistake, but you want to definitely glue the fabric instead of the foam board. Okay, so that is going to take a minute, and that, oops, a little area right there. There we go. So there. No. Oh my gosh, the glue strings. Yikes. Okay, so now we'll work on this guy. So, because we haven't glued any of this down, it makes it very easy for us to go in here and get around this little corner. Don't want to go past our line though. And just slowly start stuffing our neck. Okay, so now we're going to flip it over. And it looks like we are going to need to go up into this corner. Scissors. And also over here into this area, into this corner. And anywhere there's a little corner, I'm probably going to just put a little snip like that. Just helps to pull the fabric in many different directions. So I'm going to use the same method. I'm going to place the glue on the fabric and pull this over. Go a little bit further on that one. There we go. Go up under the chin here. You can see I'm really pulling those. Like you can tell that I'm like they're getting skinny because I'm pulling them so hard. But try to make sure you're not pulling it to where you're losing your felt on the other side. Like this top part is losing a lot. Let's do that. Okay, so we have this, which is basically the chin, underside of the beak, and then down the back side of the beak. So now we can glue all the way to our line. We can go ahead and glue the beak down because we have half of it already in place. So we just want to glue it down, smooth it out, just like that. We can go ahead and, since we're not stuffing this area, we can go ahead and just put the fabric. I'll see. Again, I didn't leave myself enough fabric, and I need to put the glue directly on the little bit of fabric I actually have. Now, this is not going to be seen. This is going to be covered by the beak, so I'm not being too particularly careful on what it looks like. But you can tell, I mean, it's nice and even. This one pulled away, so we got a little more fabric or a little more glue right here. There we go. So when I turn it around, looks pretty good. Very clean lines, no gaps, no bubbles, no. The only thing I did, now I regret it, is I used my black pen to draw my line under here, and I can see it. Hopefully when I put the beak on, it's not going to be visible, but just keep that kind of thing in mind. Some of this felt is not, it won't block out black ink. If I used a pencil, it probably would have blocked it. So always little things like that you got to keep in the back of the mind when you're making things. You don't want to ruin it because people can see your stencil lines in the background or your pattern lines. But this pink is very light, so it just didn't even occur to me to not use the black pen. Excuse me. Okay, so now I need the small. Here's the small dowel. I have the small dowel, so like a little 1/4 inch. But because the curve of the beak is here, I want to make sure I'm getting polyfill in these little corners. That's going to exaggerate the curve of where the beak is going to go. And that's what you want. Okay, so now I'm going to start gluing up here. Really going to have to tug on this one. Guys, if you're new to this or if you've only made a few of these, always know when I make you a pattern, if you've made one before and you felt like I wasn't giving you enough fabric, say you don't have, long fingernails to grab it, or say you just want a little more comfort with having, you can always cut this bigger. It's going to be folded over, so it doesn't even matter what it looks like. You could have used a gigantic rectangle on this, folded it all over easily, and then snipped off all of the excess. It's just, I make it, excuse me, I make it with the bare minimum of fabric because I don't want to take up 8 more pieces of scanned paper. It gets huge after a while. But if you have made one of these designs and you think, oh my gosh, I don't have enough fabric to pull all this over, well, cut it bigger, cut outside the lines, give yourself more. If you've never done one, well then go ahead on your first one, cut outside the lines. It literally does not matter. If you were doing this little beak, you could have done a big giant square, folded it all over, and then just trimmed it off, and it would still look exactly the same. So don't get too hung up on the patterns having to be the way they are. I mean, they really don't. When it comes to the fold over part, okay? Now, certain things, if it's part of the design and it's going to be seen, then no, of course you want to be a little more precise with those. But when it's just folding over the back of the foam board, it can be any shape you want it to be. I mean, I make the patterns. I don't ever use a pattern when I'm cutting out the fabric part, ever. Except when I do these tutorials, I just cut off a hunk of fabric and then go with it. So don't be, just as long as you have something that's big enough to fit around it, that's all it needs to be. And then if you're doing it and you have a big excess, then just snip it off. Snip it as you go. But I know, in more structured sewing type classes, when you do a pattern, a simplicity pattern, a McCall's pattern, any of those, you really do need to be down to, it has to be exact. This is Wreath attachment 101. Nothing is exact. If it's ugly, make it look pretty. If it's, it's not that strict. Don't follow the patterns to the absolute T. You really don't have to. If you need. Now, if you're like me, like getting this on here, it wasn't easy. But if the hot glue bothered me, then it might make a difference. But it doesn't bother me. So for me, it doesn't really matter. But for you guys, it may really matter. Okay, so remember earlier we talked about doing the beak. Like that. And then putting the black over all of it instead of just over the white part, just to try it. I don't know if my black piece is quite big enough. We'll do our best here. From the front, it won't really matter, right? Because the front it looks exactly the same. So let's get, I can make 100 patterns, and every single pattern I will try to do something a little different on, because why not? Nothing is written in stone. I just like to change things up, try different things, be different. Why not? Okay, so I have it on there. I'm going to snip off this little pink tip that is hanging out down here. Oops. While the glue is still warm, you can still kind of move it around, get it in place, put it where you want it. Just like that. And you take the black piece. And since we are not stuffing this, I'm just going to put some glue on there just so I can get it where I want it. And then I can start tugging it around. Just like that. Okay. Yeah, it worked, just barely. I could have made it a little bit bigger, but it's working. See, that was just kind of an impromptu observation when I was looking at the flamingo earlier. So when you look at your attachments and you have one, say you make the first one, and you like, well, I don't really like the way that looks. Well, you know what, you guys, absolutely. You know, scraps of felts and just play with it, make it, change things around, do it like you want to. Yeah, you might have to throw away a little bit of fabric, but come on, it's so inexpensive. And it's just, you know, if you can change a design to exactly how you want it, then just do it. Have some fun with it. Don't think that these patterns are made to be followed to a T, because every time I make one, I change something in the pattern. So, you know, I'm never going to be satisfied with it. I don't expect everybody else to be. But you can see now the difference it kind of makes. Whereas on this one, you got the pink layer. You can kind of see the pink layer on it, just barely, but on this one, it's black all the way back. Honestly, it was almost too much buildup for such a little satisfaction, but hey, it worked. I probably wouldn't do it again, but it worked. Okay, I'm trying to get some of this glue off of me because I can't do anything with that much glue stuck to my fingers. Alrighty. All right, so let's talk about legs. Now, this little girl here, these are foam board legs. They are spindly. They can break so easily. So easily. If you are putting this in a wreath, then you know to be careful with them. If you are selling the attachment, you really want to emphasize to your customer, you know, to be very gentle with these. I mean, they're just glued on and they're foam board and they will bend, you know. It's just whenever you put something long and spindly like this, it doesn't have the brace in the back, it's not going to be as strong. But let me tell you another thing you can do. Let me find the pattern piece. Okay. So this is the foam board pattern piece, right? And then we have another pattern piece that is the pink felt to go over the foam board. Well, say you want her to be just like this, but you want soft legs. You want just fabric hanging down, the little fluff on the end, and then literally cut your fabric with this pattern and then hot glue it together. You can even hot glue a thin piece of wire between the two pieces. You would have to cut 4. You'd have to cut 2 for each leg because you want to glue them together, but they would be bendable, flexible, all of that. I wouldn't sew them because it probably wouldn't look right, but there's no way to turn them right side out. I mean, you're just putting yourself into so much more work. But use the foam board pattern because you still want them to be skinny like this. You definitely don't want them to be fat like this one. Flamingos do not have fat legs, you know. Use this one, cut 2 of them out and then hot glue all the way around it. And like I said, if you wanted to put wire, you could. I don't know why you would wire it, but you could. Just in between the 2 pieces, put a piece of wire. They really aren't made to bend. But now if you wanted to kick this leg back and bend it forward like a, this way like a flamingo does, you can try that too. It'd bunch up some fabric though, so I'd have to try it before I could really recommend it. But anyway, I'm just going to put that out there. You don't have to do the foam board under these legs. Use the foam board pattern, cut 4 of them, glue the 2 of them together, and then you just have long, dangly legs that will not break. And if that's your ultimate goal, okay? I hope that made sense, but I mean, it really just depends on, if you just want her to sit in a wreath and have her legs dangle, and you don't care that they're firm on board like this, then that might be a better option for you, okay? All right, so we are not stuffing these legs because, Lord, when it starts getting this small, I mean, you have to really decide what's important and what's not. So, and trying to get stuffing in this little bitty thing, no thank you. Just make sure your legs are facing the right direction. Place your fabric on it. And, whoops, gosh darn it, it won't stick. So place your fabric on it, and then I just flip it over. That way I know it's right. It's exactly where it needs to be. I don't make silly mistakes like we did earlier. All right, so same game. Now I'm going to start on these toes. These toes are cut terribly. Oh my goodness, there's not even a V in here. You really want to make sure you have your little V's cut between the toes, or it's just going to look like one big foot. Okay, we'll make it work. So I like to do a little line of glue on each of the toes. Then I grab the fabric and I tug it as hard as I can between the 2 toes. And I like to get my fingernails in there and really get definition between the toes and really push that fabric in there. Okay? And that way when you flip it over, you actually have this little definition. I don't know why. The feet looked silly to me. That was the one thing when I was making this, was I couldn't get a foot that wasn't too stinking complicated as a no-sew, you know. I feel like the feet could probably have been done easier if we sewed them, but, you know, we're just going to keep them. Silly little feet. They work, though. And then we're just going to go all the way around. Make sure you tug it around the little knobby knee. That knobby knee is one of the cutest parts of a flamingo. You want to accentuate it. Give her all the help she can get here. You definitely want those knees to be out there. Now I did play with putting like a large hibiscus flower on her head. I mean, gosh, there's so many other things you can do with her. If you wanted to have her holding a little beach drink, you know, like a margarita type of thing or something, you could just make her fit into the theme of your wreath. Or I just a lei of flowers, instead of this, doing a lei of like Hawaiian flowers. I know you can get those at the Dollar Tree. This in the summer stuff. I mean, I don't know if they have it out now, but you know, a cute little lei of pretty little flowers. A little hibiscus up in her head. I mean, think of all the different ways you could really dress her up. I kind of went with the bare minimum basics, but because I'm not going to be making these to sell them, so it's really not important for me to dress it up. I want you guys to, you know, take that part on and just have some fun with it. I mean, give her all that you want to. Or if it's a boy, don't put the pink feathers on there. Make it more masculine. Throw a cute pair of sunglasses on him, and you're good to go. You know, there's so many different things you can do to dress up your attachments. I just don't feel like I need to make every little detail and have you copy every little detail, because really what? That's not teaching you guys anything but to copy a pattern. I absolutely love it when you guys go rogue and just do your thing. To me, that's exciting. That makes me happy. I spent 2 days working on a patriotic item, and last night I had to give up. I had to give up. I don't know what is wrong with me right now in creating patterns, but I'm having one of those emotional blocks. I don't even know what to call it. I had to give up. I had to stop. I think I just have too much on my plate right now, and I just can't concentrate on it. So if you ever get that way, if you ever get to where you're just like, oh my God, you know, I've got to get this stuff listed. You've got 20 wreaths looking at you that still aren't on Etsy, and you've got all these supplies, and you've got all this stuff. Just stop. Do something else. Do something you actually, do something you can complete. Because it's the feeling of completion is one of those satisfactions you can't get. The feeling of being disappointed in yourself for not getting all the things done like you know you need to do is very disheartening. And so I just had to stop. And today, you know, I did a few other things. I got everything ready to make these videos, and then I went outside for a little while and just, you know, threw the ball with the dogs. You just, even people like me who make these all the time, it's not like I just come up with everything and I have it ready in an hour and things are just hunky-dory. We struggle as a designer. So you guys, if you're a wreath maker, you struggle too. You might have this vision and you might put it all together, and then once it's together, you think, holy moly, that is not what I wanted. You know, we all do it. We all do it. So just keep going. Keep going. Okay, so the one thing I did on this, I didn't want to change. I didn't want to create two different legs because I thought that was silly. But you see how these, okay, now we are glue string. See how this leg, if I try to put these together, it doesn't really, they're just barely touching, like one little leg touching. So what I did, and there was no science behind this, I did not measure it. I cut off a triangle right here, like that. I just cut it straight off. Just like that. And I just cut another one. There we go. And the reason I did that, so now when they butt up together like this, I can glue them together. Now instead of just having one touch point, it's got like 3 inches of glue here that it will glue together. And that will just, when you glue it to the back of the underside of your flamingo's body, it will give you that much more stability. And all I did was just, I didn't even measure it. I just cut off a little triangle and try to push these two together to glue them like that. And we're just going to hold it for a second because I don't want to. And now I'm going to, now I made these a little longer, clearly, because they're flamingo legs. But I don't want you to just glue the top, you know, 1/2 inch. You're going to need to go down for at least 1 inch or more. You know, in order to get these legs strong enough, you're going to want to go down, I would say 2 inches minimum. So like right there. If you just glue on the very edge of it, it's gonna come off. Really, I'm gonna go ahead and anything that you want, always clamp it if you can. Always clamp it. I have not seen these at Hobby Lobby this year in the barbecue section, but then I haven't been to a Hobby Lobby in a month, so or it's been at least 3 weeks. I've been out of town and traveling so much, I just haven't had the time. Now down here on the toes, I did not know what to do with this. I wanted to give definition, but I definitely didn't want to use like the paint pen and make a big harsh black line. I just felt like that would look kind of ridiculous. Speaking of paint pens, oh, there it is. I found it. Like up here on the mouth, oh, this thing's been rubbed so many times. And the nose, I use the paint pen. It's just so much easier than trying to glue down a piece of rope or whatever. But I didn't want black lines on the toes. So guys, I just used a pencil. I just wanted a little bit of a line, and I'm just barely putting, it's such a faint little line between these toes. You hardly even notice it unless you really look up close. But I feel like it gives the little toe, it makes them look like little duck feet, honestly. I don't know if flamingos have duck feet, but that's what they look like to me. So just by putting those little, just a little gray shadowy line on there, it made it look really cute. Made the foot give more definition on the foot. Okay, so that is cooled off now. So now you can see how your body, and a lot of times I'll make the pieces the same. Like I could have just cut this right here and we could have just glued this little section right here, but I wanted more surface to glue. So I went ahead and did the whole, you know, the whole body on there. I want your attachments to be sturdy. You do not want stuff breaking, and you definitely don't want things falling off. You know, heat in the summertime, gosh, you will lose a customer if you sell them a wreath and like say the eyes fall off or whatever little embellishments you have just start falling off because they get so hot. Don't do that. That is that's just an embarrassing thing. When I first started, I made a door hanger for a friend of mine. They got married on St. Patrick's Day. So I went to Hobby Lobby and I bought all the cute little St. Patrick's Day stuff, and I got one of the big wooden letters with their last name, and I decorated it and glued all these little baubles on there. Well, I mean, I was using my like $2.99 hot glue gun from Walmart or wherever, the cheap little bitty one that, you know, is smaller than your palm of your hand. And they had it on their door with a storm door in front of it. So it wasn't getting direct sunlight, but it was definitely getting some heat. Man, he started coming to work just handing me all the little things that kept falling off it every single day. I was so embarrassed. And that's from that day on, I said, I will never use a low temp or a cheap glue gun. And I have been buying these Sure Bonders ever since. And I go through, I don't know, 5, 6 a year. I mean, they don't last forever when you use them like I do. And I don't expect them to. But I was just so embarrassed. Everything was falling off. I thought, that's it. I'm done. I can't. That is just too much for me. You know, obviously, eventually he brought me in the whole thing and I re-glued it all, but it never looked the same. It was never the same. And I was just embarrassed that he had to do that in the first place. His wife was not so thrilled with it either. She had no idea who I was. He just bought it like for their anniversary or something. She's like, oh my God, this thing's a piece of junk. What did you pay for this, you know? Which I promise you, I paid way more for all the little Hobby Lobby doodads than he paid me, for sure. I didn't know any better back then, you know. So now I'm just going to start embellishing. I know we want the little feather boa down here on the ankles. Don't have to. If you're doing a male version, you don't have to do the feather boa. Even if it's a girl version, you don't have to do the feather boa. I have not looked to see what colors Hobby Lobby has, but I'm pretty certain you're going to find something very bright pink, fuchsia, pink, whatever. And I buy all of my feather boas online in bulk, so, you know, I just have been buying them from the same company for years. I think it's the same company that sells them on Amazon, but because I can get them directly from the site, you know, I might pay $3 a piece, where if I go on Amazon, it's like $7.99 for Prime or something. It doesn't cost $4 to ship a feather boa, but Prime members, you know, that's what it's the exact same company, the same feather boa. They just have different prices on Amazon. But if I'm in a pinch, you better believe I will go to Amazon and order one or two, because I get it quicker because they're out in California. So now I'm going to, this little wing here, you do with it as you want. You don't even have to put it on here if you don't want to. But my initial plan was to do the little wing and then to like trim it up in cute little trims and maybe do just feathers at the bottom or, you know, around the outside. And then as I did it and I started wrapping the feathers all the way up inside, I liked it more. I liked the big cluster of feathers. But please, just do whatever you want to do. And then I just put a little bit of trim right here to kind of show off, you know, the top of the feather. There's no right way or wrong way. Just have fun. The decorating part is the fun part. So take my base flamingo and run to the Dollar Tree or someplace that's selling a lot of this cool summery stuff and have some fun with her. So yeah, the wing kind of had me stumped at first when I first started doing it. I'm like, what on earth am I going to do for a wing? You know, I looked online, I looked at some clip art, and basically it was all just kind of drawn on there. And I thought, that looks dumb. I can't draw a wing on this. And the feathers just kind of came about. Like, well, we'll just use all the feathers. All of them. Because why not? And I'm just literally wrapping it around and filling up the little hole there. And I didn't even put it around 3 times. I mean, I probably can use a little more, but then I have to cut a whole nother feather boa, which actually I do have to anyway. So, and if you pull it apart, there's some places you can still see through, but that's okay. It's just all about the bling. And I put a little choker on her. I just thought it was cute. Not necessary. Again, I'm one of those people that just tends to not know when to stop sometimes when I'm decorating things. I go way overboard until I'm like, ugh, gross. What did I just do? I should have stopped like 10 steps before that. I just keep going and going and have fun with it. So, okay. Well, she's coming along. And you can see on this one, see how much longer the tail was on this one? I did cut the tail down a little bit. I felt like this was just a little too, I don't know, penguinish. I don't know who has a pointed tail like that. So that was one of the things I was looking at going, oh no, this is not going to work for me. It's always the weirdest things that catch my attention where I'm like, oh, no, we can't do that. And because we have this where we glued these together right here, I'm just going to put some feathers in there. It's going to cover that little transition. And nobody will ever know it's under there. I always cut my feather boas over the trash can. Nobody wants to clean up that mess. So now we just do a line of glue. Throw it on there. Flip it around. Just put some glue in here. Go. Ouch. That was hot. Okay. So we did, and those of you who've been in the WAAM group for a little while, or we did these eyes for our peacock last year. But honestly, I look really cute on her. I love the little lashes. So we're going to reuse. Of course, you're only going to use the right one, not the left one. But that's okay. These are our resin eyes. We print them on photo glossy paper, and then we paint resin on them. It's very labor intensive, but it's so worth it because the eyes are like glassy and shiny, and they are water resistant. Something splashes on them, probably not going to ruin them, or it's not going to cause the inks to bleed into the fabrics and all the things you would expect if you just printed them out and put them on your project. But now, of course, there are lots of different eyes out there you can use. So lots and lots of different ones. So I just like to do these ones. So these are our peacock / flamingo eyes. You just put some hot glue on the back of it, and then put it on there wherever you feel like it needs to go. Just like that. And then last thing I do is the paint pen, because you know you can't touch it for like at least an hour. Right? I don't even know if I would just leave it overnight, honestly. And I just make a little, see, that's what the line is supposed to look like. This one has been rubbed so many times, throwing it in the bin, it's kind of gotten all you can trim the little fibers with scissors to try to make the line, but see how nice and clean this line is? Yeah, that's what that would look like until I started messing with it. And I wasn't sure about the nostrils. We're just going to put them on here. I don't know. There we go. Our little girl is done. Now, the one thing we did not do, and you guys know I'm notorious for forgetting to put the pipe cleaners on the back. That one doesn't have them either. Absolutely every day of my life. I feel like I've done this so many times, this should not be a big deal. I'm not gonna turn this one over because I don't want to mess up the mouth. But this one, if you're like me and you forget to pop the pipe cleaners through, you can glue them on. Let me grab a little piece of felt over here. Doesn't really matter what color, so all I have at the moment sitting in front of me is red. So if you do this, and trust me, well, obviously I've done it several times because I've had to figure out a way to fix it. Take a little strip of felt, put hot glue all the way around the back. You want to cover the back, place your pipe cleaner on there, glue this over. You can also use cable tie mounts that you lots of wreath makers like to use to attach signs. The cable tie mounts will stick to this paper board very easily. There we go. Now you have to let that cool. I wouldn't mess with it. But this is a pretty decent fix. I don't think it's really I don't think the pipe cleaner is gonna go anywhere. So you can put them wherever you would have punched the pipe cleaners through. You can just put them there, just like that. And then we'll just let those cool off. They will hold it in your wreath if you feel later that you need to reinforce them, but they're really, if you pulled these off, it's gonna pull off the paper and everything off of the foam board. So they're on there pretty good, okay? So there we go, guys. Those are our cute little flamingos. I hope you enjoy making these, and I hope you sell a ton of them. I want to see what your version of them is, because I had a lot of fun making her. She was one that didn't cause me any issues. I was able to make her very easily. So, but if you do a male version and you want it to be the male flamingo, we do have lots of eyes that are more masculine. They don't have the big eyelashes on them. I think you could use like the sloth eye or even the mule eye. I mean, there's lots of different eyes that we have on the webpage that are a little bit more masculine that you could use if you wanted to do a male version. Alrighty, so that is it. I hope you enjoy her, and I cannot wait to see what you guys come up with. Thanks, guys. Have a great evening.